I'm Bob. I'm Bob. I'm an alcoholic. Ben told me your meds would have kicked in by now. Hey, all right. I'm sober since October 31st, 1978. I have a sponsor who knows they're my sponsor, and if your sponsor's not sure they're your sponsor, they're probably not. And I have a home group. It's called Connect the Dots. I come from the hitting bottom capital of the world, and if you've surrendered to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you're no longer your own primary purpose, and now your primary purpose in the center of your life is helping other drunks, Vegas is a target-rich environment, and I love living there. I'd like to welcome the people that are new. Glad you're here. There's a lot of hope here for hopeless alcoholics. And I think that it used to talk about this back in the 70s. I don't hear it too much anymore. About hopelessness is almost a prerequisite for Alcoholics Anonymous in order to surrender. You have to lose all hope. Hope that you can control and enjoy your drinking, that someday you're going to jumpstart that party, you're going to get back to the good old days, that you're going to manage it, you're going to keep the damage down. Hope that you could wrest happiness and satisfaction out of this world if you just manage well. The hope that you can control, the hope that you're in charge, the hope that your ideas are going to work this time. And I think sometimes, my case, absolutely, is I had to exhaust all hope. Hope was killing me. Doesn't that sound weird? Because hope is normally looked at as a positive thing. But my hope was always so self-serving and selfish that it always channeled into, maybe I'll be able to party one day like I used to party. Maybe I'll be able to control things so I can be happy. Maybe I'll be able to get you straightened out. Maybe I'll get you convinced that of the things that I know are stupid, and I get you to see it too. You know, and all that crap, and it was killing me. And I tried a lot of things before I got here. I got some education. I worked as a therapist for a while. I was actually very good at it until I was the director of inpatient treatment in a treatment center in Pennsylvania, and I was actually pretty good at it until the day the director discovered I was drunk on the job. They don't like that in treatment center. I mean, they have no sense of humor when it comes to that stuff. And why would a guy like me do that? Why would I pursue that? Why do I read so much? Why do I do all that stuff? Because I have an ego that wants to run the universe. And it always suspects and believes that it will find power and control in knowledge. Here's what I've found in knowledge, truly, if I'm objective, I've found that it's fodder for my ego. To feed something inside me that should be starved. Not to get smaller and humbler and more a part of and one with, but to elevate me into the I know guy. And I was the I know guy for years. And, you know, for the people that are new, I want to talk a little bit about step one because it's crucial. You can come here and do a lot of stuff, and if you don't get step one, you don't got nothing. I had a hard time. In 1971, I wasn't even old enough to take a legal drink yet. I was made to go to my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you could have put me on a lie detector at that point and said, Bob, is there any way in the world you're alcoholic? I would have said, absolutely not. And it probably would have said I was telling the truth. I was sent there, made to go there. I was in a treatment center for the exclusive treatment of heroin addiction. And I would have admitted to having a problem with that. It was fairly obvious. But I'm not an alcoholic. And if you would have probed me and looked at and put my past in my face, I would have had to concede, well, yeah, when I was 16 years old, I got sent away for my third arrest as a juvenile. It was all around alcohol, and I might have had a problem with alcohol at one time, but if you do enough drugs, you can transcend an alcohol problem. And I got to tell you, truly, 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 all my drug use was simply to facilitate two aspects that are out of control in my alcoholism. I did drugs to control and enjoy my drinking. Like stimulants so you don't black out. But the problem with not blacking out, you remember all that crap then. That's not good. And then I did other chemicals and other substances to control my abstinence. Because I got a big secret, something I do not understand, is that not only do I have a problem with alcohol, I got a problem with sobriety. And every time I get physically sober, I ain't right. And so from 1971 to 1978, I was in and out of institutions. I rode the progression of the disease down to nothing left. And it was brutal. It was brutal. The most horrific and horrible years of my life were after I went to my first AA meeting, coming in and out of AA, in and out of institutions. It was horrible. And I remember sitting in meetings. I didn't like AA. It was offensive to me. It's just all this happy, clappy crap, oh, jeez. Everybody in AA is grateful for everything. Oh my God, I burnt my life to the ground again. I'm a mess. I hate myself. I hate my life. I hate everything. And I got to sit and listen to you tell me how grateful you are for the wonderful life you have. I remember thinking, I've died and gone to hell. This is hell. This is hell. It's not just that you've ruined your life and you're full of shame and remorse and you're extremely depressed. It's that you have to sit in some limbo, some purgatory where people come and rub your face in how wonderful they are. You know what I mean? Oh, it was offensive to me. Because I don't think I'm an alcoholic. And as the years went on, there were times when you have to kind of admit you're kind of an alcoholic. After about 4 or 5 treatment centers, the evidence is piling up now. All right, now I'm not doing drugs anymore. I'm just drinking Richard's Wild Irish Rose, and I'm getting just sick on that stuff. All right, the evidence is piling up that I'm probably some sort of alcoholic. But I'll tell you something. I was a special kind of alcoholic. Because there's nobody in AA that looks the way I feel. I remember sitting in meetings and I've burnt my life to the ground again. I'm a mess. I hate everything. And I watch you and I listen to you and something is very apparent to me. For God's sakes, whatever's wrong with me is not the same thing that's wrong with you. Because you people get sober, you stop drinking and you become wonderful. You stop drinking and you have a respect for life. I have a disdain for life. You stop drinking and you're happy. I stop drinking, I'm depressed and full of anxiety and resentments. You stop drinking and your life works. I mean, you have these endless success stories. Now this is an exaggeration of perception, but it seemed to me that people in AA would share things like, 6 months ago I was living in that dumpster back there, and now I'm the president of United States Steel. That's an exaggeration, but I would hear those kind of miracle stories, and I'm trying to figure out who I can bum a cigarette from, you know what I mean, right? It's like crazy to me. Oh. I'd come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and my primary problem, alcohol, alcohol, sure, but it was depression. I've been diagnosed clinically depressed twice. an erroneous diagnosis, but I understand it because if you looked up what I told the therapist and you matched it up with the DSM, looks like I'm clinically depressed. But I got something worse, something sicker, something that the treatment for depression doesn't work on. I got spiritual depression. I got the depression of someone who's so obsessively self-concerned that I smother myself with myself. I just get me right on me and my problems and my fears, and they're extreme. And my remorse, and it's extreme, and my guilt, and it's extreme. And I get it right on me, and it feels like I'm smothering myself. And my experience when, 6 months sober, 3 months sober in those years from 71 to 78, I couldn't take it anymore. And I'd go and I'd get that first drink. Did you ever notice after 3 months sober, that first double shot of whiskey tastes like hope? You know what I mean? Right? And I'd throw that down there. And I do something that most alcoholics do. If you've been sober a while, you take that first double shot of whiskey. We all go, like somebody turned the air back on. I can breathe. I can breathe with the hope of freedom. So my alcoholism, the thing that's truly killing me, I can't see it. And it hides in the middle of a forest of other problems. Problems like use of amphetamines, problems like coke, problems like heroin, problems like pills, problems like depression, problems like anxiety. That new thing they got out now, that social anxiety disorder, got that before it came out. ADD, I had ADD before it came out also. It wasn't that I couldn't pay attention, I just didn't suffer stupid people well. I got all these, I got employment problems, I got family problems, my family just does not understand. I got relationship problems. I can get a hostage, but after a while I can't get him to mind anymore. I got problems in every area of my life, and you guys are telling me I'm an alcoholic. Yeah. But my God, look at all this other stuff. Look at all this other stuff. And in my tainted perception, because alcoholism uses your own mind against you. In my tainted perception, it looks like these are really more serious problems than the alcohol. And yet I'm an alcoholic because of 3 things. And if you're new and you relate to these 3 things, even though you may have a whole bunch of other problems, maybe you're dying of a disease called alcoholism, and you can't see it because it uses your own mind against you. I'm an alcoholic because when I first found alcohol, this is before I found drugs, when I first found alcohol, I found a solution for crap that was wrong with me inside that I didn't even recognize. And I remember the first time I ever drank, I felt so good. And you don't even know that you don't feel good till you really feel good. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I remember thinking to myself, I want to feel like this the rest of my life. And alcohol in the early days, now not in late stage alcoholism where it's turned on you and it's become ugly, but in the early days of drinking, alcohol did something for me that it only does for alcoholics. And what it does for me creates an obsession with that effect. Not with alcohol per se, but with the effect produced by alcohol. And what is that effect? Well, you could say it 100 different ways. It let me come out and play. It did that. Made me feel like I was one of the guys and connected. Did that. I could talk to girls. Did that. I don't want to be crude, but I think if it wasn't for alcohol, I'd probably be celibate to this day. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't hook nothing up. I'm too hyper self-sensitive. Alcohol set me free. Free from what, Bob? There's only one freedom, and it contains all freedoms. It's the only freedom that means anything. Alcohol freed me from the bondage of self. A spectacular, much, much needed thing. I could walk into and maybe you've had this experience as I've had many times in the early days of drinking when it was spectacular, walking into a party, walking into a bar, and you don't fit. I remember walking into a bar sometimes and I wouldn't even be there except this is where the alcohol is. You know, and you just walk in, you look around, there's all these people laughing and carrying on. They're all stupid people, you know what I mean? Cliquey, oh, not my kind of people, stupid people. Judgmental people, you can tell by looking at them, judgmental people. Arrogant people, you can tell by looking at them, arrogant. Egocentric people, not my kind of people. But I don't leave because that's where the alcohol is. And do you ever have that experience? You walk in, I'm kind of half-assed depressed. I'm lonely. I have that feeling of separation, like I don't fit here. I'm not connected. It's like all of them and then there's me. And it's a horrible feeling. And after about 2-3 double shots of whiskey, I just discovered something. I discovered that I have my very best lifelong friends are in this bar. These people that I misjudged them walking in, they're kind of interesting now. After about 6 drinks, we're shooting pool together. After about 8 or 10, we're planning our vacations together, I'm about 12 drinks in, I'm saying things to you like, I love you, bro. I die for you, man. Feeling that connection. It's spiritual. I feel connected and a part of and one with you and one with the universe. And I came in there in a feeling of horrible separation and depression. Alcohol was the most immediate and the most effective medicine for the real crap that's wrong with me that I ever found. And people, starting at the time I was probably 14 years old, I started getting in trouble, going to juvenile court. People start bad rapping, drinking. But they don't understand. They don't understand that this is the best thing I've ever found. They don't understand. There's a thing in the book, in the description of the alcoholic, where Bill uses an analogy. He compares us to a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, if you've ever read the original Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, written by Robert Louis Stevenson, who actually died of alcoholism, it's our story. And it's about this self-centered, separatist, egocentric guy who doesn't fit anywhere. He's depressed. But he's a scientist, Dr. Jekyll. And he ain't right. So he just works. He's a workaholic. He works in his laboratory. He has a fiance, can't even talk to her. He doesn't even know how to do that. He doesn't mix with people. And he creates this elixir. And he drinks it and he becomes Mr. Hyde. And for the first time in his life, he can come out and play. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was free. For the first time in his life, all that stuff that was in his way just seemed to melt away. And he does a lot of bad stuff. As some of us, I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room that's ever had a blackout and the next day found out you did something you want to shoot yourself. You know what I mean? Oh my God, I couldn't have done that. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And at the very end, there's a little part, it's like the confession of Dr. Jekyll. And he says something that when I read this, I thought, oh my God, that's my story. He said, even after all the harm he's done, all the shame he's brought on himself and his family, the damage he did, the hurt to people, the horrible things he did, even with all of that, he said, I still like myself better as Mr. Hyde than I ever liked myself as Dr. Jekyll. Oh, my God. And that's what's insane about alcoholism. My parents are wondering, how can you be doing this? And I just, you walk away, people question you. Don't you realize what you're doing to yourself? Yeah, but see, you don't realize what alcohol's doing for me. You don't get that. Because my sister and my daughter and my parents, when they drank alcohol, they didn't get the effect that I got from drinking alcohol. Only the alcoholic gets that effect. Let me tell you something. If non-alcoholics got the same effect from alcohol, I think they'd be as drunk as I was. But they'll do weird things. Non-alcoholics will do weird things. They'll have 1 or 2 drinks. I've seen my sister do this. First of all, takes her 20, 30 minutes to drink 1 drink. That's like bizarre. I sit at the dinner table watching her. I'm watching it evaporate before my eyes. She's taking so long. You just want to hurry her up, just drink that thing. And then she might have 2 drinks. Second drink, she often doesn't even finish it. Pushes it aside, leans back. I don't want any more. I'm starting to feel it. Really? Now, I don't want to be crude, but it'd be easier for me as an alcoholic to have sex and after 2 strokes say, I don't want any more of that, I'm starting to feel it, than it would be to do that with 2 drinks of alcohol. I mean, it's like, my sister quits drinking. You're 3 inches from heaven, for God's sakes. But she gets a feeling, alcohol does something to her that it doesn't do to me. After a couple drinks, she gets a little buzz, and she likes a little buzz. But she starts to feel like she's losing control. I don't get that. I get a feeling like I'm getting control. I drink with an urgency and an expectation, like it's always on the next drink. That's why I was always one more. I'm the guy in the bar. If I got 2 drinks in front of me, killed one. The minute I killed the one, I'm getting another pair. Because I always have this feeling like I'm not there yet, but my God, I'm about to be. I know it. This drink here is going to put me into such a state of being wonderful that the world can't stand it. I mean, it's going to, but I never get there. But I get so close to there, it makes me crazy. I can almost touch it. And so I drink with an urgency, and I drink with an obsession that normal people don't get. They don't, because alcohol doesn't do for them what it does for the alcoholic. And it doesn't do to them what it does to the alcoholic. Because I'm an alcoholic, and the litmus test to see, if you want to find out, maybe you're sitting here and you do a lot of drugs, maybe you have a gambling problem, maybe you have a depression problem, maybe you have a whole bunch of problems, and you're not sure if you're an alcoholic. There's a test in the book. Because you only have to have one thing to be an alcoholic, truly. And that's an allergic reaction to alcohol that you can't see. You can't see it. No alcohol sees it. And it manifests itself in a yearning and a craving for more. The test in the book is, I don't think it's a good test. I've actually recommended it to a couple people. They won't do it. They won't take it. The test, it says, if you're not sure, you can quickly diagnose yourself. Go down to the nearest bar. Try to drink and control it. Try to have a few drinks and then stop, go home, can't drink no more. Well, if you're an alcoholic and you go to take the test because you think these people, you think your counselor and these do-gooders in AA are full of crap, my problem's not alcohol. My problem's heroin. My problem's this. My problem's that. My problem's all this other stuff. And you don't believe you're really an alcoholic. Here's what happens when you try to take the test. All right. I'm going to go down here to this bar. I'm going to go every night for a week. Okay. And I'm going to have 2 strong drinks, and then that's it. And then I'm going to go home. I can't smoke nothing, take nothing, 2 drinks, that's it. Well, if you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic, you start sipping on that second drink, it will become very clear to you that this is a bad test day. It will be like an epiphany. You'll say, oh my God, that game's on. I didn't know that game was on. I can't leave with that game on. Or Brian comes in. Brian's always got some good dope to smoke. Got to have a drink with Brian. Some girl would walk in. I'd think, oh my God, that's my soulmate. Got to have a drink with her. And I don't understand that this is an abnormal reaction to alcohol because it uses my own mind against me. I don't think it's a craving. I think I changed my mind. But I'll change my mind every single time. Because alcoholism and this allergic reaction uses my own mind against me. That doesn't happen in non-alcoholics. Never. I can't safely drink alcohol. And I'll tell you a little funny story. When I was 17 years sober, I had a good year financially. A stupidly good material year. My business was doing really well, and I took my sister and her husband over to and I was some girl I was dating at the time over to the island of Maui. I rented a house on the beach. We had Harleys for the whole time we were there. Rode around the island. It was just an amazing thing. Well, I wanted to show my sister the top of the volcano. It's 11,000 feet up. You get to the top of the Haleakala crater, and from up there on a clear day, you can see all the other islands. It's spectacular. So I'm going to show my sister this, and we're riding up on these Harleys up this mountain, and it's raining, and it's miserable. But when I get an idea, nothing deters me. Because I am convinced we're going to break through those clouds. It's going to be sunny at the top at 11,000 feet. We're going to be able to see those other islands and that view. And my sister, for the rest of her life, will be saying to people, "You'll never believe, oh my God, what my brother showed me. It was so amazing." Well, we get to the top and it's miserable. It's rain, it's cold, it's horrible. And feel like a wet rat driving back down that and soaking wet, cold. It's miserable. Go around a hairpin turn. Road's wet, slick, and there's moss on the road. That I downshifted it coming into that, and it lagged and hit at the apex of that turn, and it was like a catapult that catapulted me off that bike into a bed of lava rock. Broke every bone on this, every single rib snapped, my collarbone snapped. I was in a bed of lava rock. It took them an hour to get an ambulance up there. I thought I was done. I thought I broke my back. I'd never experienced any pain like that in my whole life. They finally get me to Kahului General Hospital, and they 40 minutes with brushes getting that lava rock out of my skin. It was brutal. And every time they touch me or move me, man, it feels like somebody stabbing me with a knife. Finally, the doctor, they stopped messing with me. And I remember laying there thinking, okay. If you stop moving me, I can do this. Just don't be jostling me around anymore. Don't be moving me. If you just leave me alone, I'm fine. I can just lay here. The pain's not too bad. It's bearable if I'm not moving. And I'm laying there, and the doctor came in. They had me hooked up to a PICC line because they thought I was in shock. The doctor came in and said, "Well, we got your CAT scan, and we know it's safe. We're going to give you some morphine." I said, "Doc, you can't give me morphine." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, when I was in my early 20s, I was a heroin addict." I said, I don't do heroin anymore. I'm an alcoholic. I'm sober 17 years. I've had nothing for 17 years. I can't risk it." And he said to me, "Kid, this is non-negotiable. You have dynamic tension between those broken ribs and that collarbone. We must dumb down that pain somewhat or you're never going to heal." And he stuck that needle with morphine in that PICC line and shot that in there, and a funny thing happened. It went right to the pain. I didn't have to steal anybody's TV set or nothing. I mean, it was just, right? It just went right to the pain. And they had me on pain pills for a little while. This happens to sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous. It ends up in the hospital from time to time. I got off it before they wanted me to. I was fine. I didn't go on a run. It was manageable. But let me tell you something. That doctor would have came in that emergency room, and said, listen, kid, this is non-negotiable. We're going to give you 4 shots of 100 proof vodka every 4 hours. First time they gave me those 4 shots of vodka, I'd have been leaving that hospital with that robe flapping in the background on my way to a liquor store, because alcohol is not my drug of choice, it's my drug of no choice. That's why I'm an alcoholic. You can have a whole bunch of other problems, but I got that. And then the third aspect of alcoholism, in addition to this abnormal reaction to alcohol and this abnormal reaction to abstinence, is that I get sick when I'm sober. Silkworth says it in the doctor's opinion, guys like me, with the best intentions in the world, how many times did I say to myself, sometimes crying, sobbing, meaning it, I get it, man, I'm never going to touch that stuff again. I'm not stupid. I get it. And then I enter into this thing called abstinence. And I don't understand why after a little time I ain't right. Why I'm so prone to depression. Why I'm so prone to these horrible, lonely feelings. Wilson describes it in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions as a state of anxious apartness. And I get that. And I don't do well. I get depressed and I get full of anxiety. I get worried and anxiety to the point on occasion where I feel like I'm having a nervous breakdown. And if you ask me when I'm suffering from these symptoms of depression, this anxiety that's almost driving me insane, if you ask me, as counselors and therapists used to ask me at times, right? I remember one time I was in this recovery house, and it was about a week before I went back to drinking again. And I ain't doing good. Now I'm trying to pretend like I'm all right, because you don't want to look bad. And I'm the kind at the in-house meetings. I'm the guy that comes up with the mental list of things I'm grateful for. That's all BS. I'm grateful I'm not in jail. I'm grateful I don't have leprosy. I'm great. I just crazy. It's nothing. It's just talk. Because I want to fit. I'm obsessed with what you think of me. And this counselor, right before a week or less before I went back out again, he came up to me and I guess I didn't look like I was doing well. And he said, Bob, what's wrong? I remember looking at him. I'm thinking to myself, my God, I'd like to tell you. Boy, I'd like to tell you, maybe you could help me. The problem is I don't know what's wrong. It's just that nothing's right. I wish I had something, this horrible way I feel. I wish I had some kind of tragedy to pin it on. Like if terrorists had killed my parents, I could, now I got a reason why I'm so messed up. Or if my girlfriend just left me, I had a reason why I feel this way. If I lost my job even, that's somewhat of a reason. The worst thing of all is to feel the feelings of an abnormal reaction to abstinence that you don't understand when externally, my life's better than it's ever been. That's the crazy thing about alcoholism. I didn't drink. There were 1 or 2 occasions I'd get a resentment and drink. But a lot of times I'd drink when things were better than they'd ever been. Out here. I remember a couple times my parents, oh God, they got so crushed by this thing. Where I'd be sober 6, 7, 8 months. I got a good job. I'm doing well. Got a little girlfriend somewhere. I'm doing all right. I got a car and a place to live. And everybody's looking at me. And everybody's thinking, man, Bob's doing good. Bob's turned the corner. Bob's going to be all right. And just about the time that my parents can start to sleep at night, everything is kind of okay, that is when I would pick up a drink and burn my life to the ground. And it doesn't even make sense to me, and it really doesn't make sense to them. How could you do this? I think that I must have looked like some extreme type of mental illness, but it's not mental illness, it's a spiritual malady. That when I get sober, I get an abnormal reaction to abstinence. I'm restless, I'm irritable, I'm discontent. Page 52 is a whole paragraph of symptoms that match how I am sober. Prone to misery and depression, full of fear, can't make a living, I don't fit with people. I'm all of that. And my untreated alcoholism, because all I've done is not drink and go to a few stupid meetings and judge people properly. And if you're not treating your alcoholism and you're not working the steps, you're not sponsoring anybody, you haven't made amends, you don't have a sponsor, you're in charge of your own life, you are your primary purpose. If you're that guy, I think, and you have chronic alcoholism, I think the question is not if you're going to drink again, I think it's when. I think it's inevitability. Or as people I've known very well in AA, they suffer their untreated alcoholism for years, and then they put a pistol in their mouth and blow their brains out because they know they can't drink. They get it. They're not stupid. But they can't live with the feelings of abstinence either. Boy, do I get that. I get that. And these emotions and crazy thoughts would work on me. I made up my mind I'm never going to drink again, and these feelings work on me day in and day out, and week in and week out, and month in and month out. Until that day comes where it's like throws a switch. It's the screw it switch inside me. And all I can see at that time, I can't see the promises. I can't see the fact I'm on paper. I can't see the last couple drunks where it's become horrible and I drink in depression and I drink in self-pity and loneliness. I can't see that. You know what I see? I see the hope of jump-starting that old party again. I existed the last 2 to 3 years of my drinking desperately chasing the ghosts of parties past. And I never catch them. And it's horrible. I drink sometimes and I cry because I don't know what's happened to me. And I feel so bad. What's happened? I feel almost worse drinking and even more depression and self-pity and loneliness drinking than I did when I was sober. And when I was sober, it felt like I was doing time. And so I'm in a trap I can't spring. In the chapter, A Vision for You, it talks about guys like me who go on for years in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says he will presently try the old game again. Why? Because the truth is, Bob, you're not happy about your sobriety, are you? No, I'm not. It says Bob, you can't imagine life without it, can you? Not really. To me, AA had good news and bad news. I met people sober a long time. And the good news in AA is if maybe, if I went to thousands of these stupid meetings, I'd stay sober the rest of my life. And the bad news, I'm going to live a long time. Because I ain't no good sober. That's my secret. Without the alcohol and combinations of alcohol and drugs, I got a big secret. The big secret is without something, I'm nothing. I hate that about me. And I can't change it. I went to the great, my mother was a therapist. Because with her help, I went to see all the rock stars of psychology and psychiatry. I was in therapy with Albert Ellis. You had to be a movie star to see Ellis personally. I Gestalt therapy, transactional analysis. I primal screamed. I'm embarrassed to tell you. It's after a bunch of sessions with a primal therapist, I laid on the floor of her office and kicked my hands and feet and screamed at the top of my lungs, "Mommy, Daddy." I mean, oh my God. I was hypnotized. I was at workshops with people like Rollo May and all these amazing people. And the more I tried to fix myself, the sicker I got. And the more confused I was. Isn't that odd that I could spend several years with some of the great therapists trying to figure me out under the idea that if I figured me out, maybe I could change, maybe something would happen. And the more I studied me, the more confused I got. Truly. By the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't even know who I am anymore. I've tried to be so many things to so many people. All I have left, I don't have any remnant of who Bob is. I just have this obsessive concern with what you think of me. That's all that's left. And I don't know who I am. And if you're surrendered in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're not going to hear anything here. All you're going to do is judge us. I get it. I did that for almost 7 years. But if you're surrendered and the receiver is on, we will introduce you to you in a way that the top psychiatrist can't. And I remember it started while I was still in the detox. My sponsor and some of his sponsees came in there and they would share about themselves. And that's where it started. It was the first time I ever could listen to you. I've been around AA. I've been in 150 meetings at least. I could never listen to you because I'm in my head. This is just so far away because the big show's on the inside. But this time I was present in the meeting. And I heard my sponsor share his story. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I sat there and I'm nodding my head. And I'm thinking, my God, I'm like this guy. He just tried to commit suicide. I just tried to commit suicide. He tried to control his drinking and he always failed. And I always tried and always failed. He tried to control his abstinence and he always failed. I tried to control my abstinence and I always failed. My emotions and my mind were so messed up and his were too. And I remember sitting there and I was nodding my head and I was thinking, my God, I'm like this guy, and yet I saw something in him that I didn't understand. He laughed. He laughed more than anybody I ever knew. Everything was funny to him. He had an ease about him where nothing seemed to upset him. He rolled through life, He had a lot of gratitude, but it was not showy gratitude. It was gratitude in action. The reason I met him is he brought a meeting twice a week into the detox. He was the first hospital guy in Vegas. He'd been a delegate. He'd been an area chairman. He was involved in the starting of the Las Vegas Roundup, the retreat, all kinds of stuff. He was a all-in guy. He was not just a guy who talks like he's all in. His actions demonstrated that he was all in. And he laughed a lot. And I remember watching him right outside the meeting hall in the treatment center. He was talking to some of the guys and they were joking and they were really having a good time. And I remember looking at him and thinking, my God, he seems to be doing better sober than I did when drinking worked. And I dared to hope. And when you've burnt your life to the ground repeatedly and you've shamed yourself and everyone you ever loved will have nothing to do with you, there's no more entitlement here. But I dared to hope, and the hope was, is it possible that if I did everything he did, is it possible that whatever this thing is that happened to him, could that happen to me? And I remember it like it was yesterday. I walked up to him. I was scared to death. I was terrified. I was so afraid. I wanted to ask him to sponsor me. And what I was afraid of is I was afraid he was going to reject me. I was afraid he was going to look at me and go, I don't sponsor losers like you. Because all his sponsees seemed to be doing well. I mean, they were. And I went up to him and I said, would you sponsor me? And then I said, if you will, I'll do anything you ask me to do. And he lit up, man. He lit up. He said, yeah, be glad to help you. And when I said to him, I'll do anything you ask me to do, I had no idea how much crap they wanted you to do. I had no idea. Oh, my God. Crazy stuff. I'm an atheist. Sort of. I've known some real atheists. You got to be very religious to be a good atheist about your. I'm not that. I don't have that much angst about my atheism. But the truth is, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that if there is a God, he ain't going to warm up to me. I know what I've done. He might warm up to you people in AA. You're nice people, but you don't understand what I've done. I've hurt. I've really hurt people that will never be the same as a result of my actions. And I don't think if there is a God, he's not going to help me. And I'm the kind of guy that if I think you don't like me, I'm going to not like you first. See, you don't have to reject me. I'll beat you to it. I'll beat you to it. And so he wanted me to pray. One of the first directions he gave me, I said, I want you to get, and not just pray, he wanted me to physically get down on my knees, which is, I'm in a halfway house when I got out of there. I am not going to get down on my knees in a room full of guys that just came out, that came out of jail and, I've been in jail. I know what happens to guys that get down on their knees in jail. That ain't not going to happen, right? So, but he told me to do it, and I agreed. So I'd go into the bathroom, lock the door, push the throw rug against the crack under the door so nobody can peek under there to see me pray. I remember when he told me to pray, I got kind of, I always did what he said, but I had moments where I tried to negotiate. Do you know that voice in your head that likes to negotiate things, right? And I have a negotiator, which is the voice of my enemy, actually. And I tried to negotiate myself out of the praying. I said, well, I really can't pray. And he said, why not? He said, because I don't believe in God. He said, I didn't ask you to believe in God, I asked you to pray. So I got my negotiator voice went, well, if I don't believe in God and I pray, I'd be a hypocrite. He said, I think you've been a hypocrite all your life. Just do it. And it was one of the first actions I ever took that I didn't agree with, I didn't believe in, and I'm telling you, it started to change my life. There's a line in We Agnostics that says, God does not make hard terms with those who seek him. I don't believe in God. I've MF God. I'm that guy. I'm that guy. And from the moment I took these actions I didn't believe in, something weird started happening in my life. I started getting lucky. You know where I found God? I found God eventually I found him deep down within me, but initially I found him in AA meetings. There's a promise in the second tradition that this ultimate authority expresses itself through this consciousness in a group of Alcoholics Anonymous. When two or more of us come together for the purpose of recovery, there's something in the midst that's greater than the sum of the parts. There's a spirit in Alcoholics Anonymous. In a good AA meeting, you can feel it in the room. It's God. What else could it be? Because when we leave, it's not there. It's something that happens when we come together. This ultimate authority expresses itself. And God started talking to me in AA meetings. Over and over. Because I'm new. I've still suffered from time with anxiety and depression. I get crazy. I'm the guy who I've called my sponsor just about every day. And about 3 times a week, he has to talk me off the ledge because I'm like Chicken Little with the skies falling. He always has to bring me right back to, is everything okay this moment? Yeah, but by next week. No, it's right now. And I'd go to meetings and I'd be having one of those days, those days that I had a lot of in the early sobriety where I'm crazy. I ain't doing well. Now, I may hide it and pretend like I am. The truth is, I ain't doing well. And there'd be some stranger in the meeting, and he starts to share, and he's talking exactly about what's going on with me in a way I can hear it and understand it when he says it. I can't hear it and understand it when I say it. I've spent exorbitant amounts of time when I'm not doing well, trying to analyze myself and figure out what's wrong. I've never been successful because when I'm in a bad spot and I try to figure out what the problem is, what I'm looking for, I'm looking with. You can't see it. Because my alcoholism makes me myopic. And it's right here. I can't see it. And so I go to meetings and guys are sharing exactly what I need to hear. And you 5, 10 times, it's a coincidence. 20, 30 times and you start thinking, man, there's something going on here. There's something happening here. It felt like I was in the Twilight Zone or something. How come I got so much good luck now? How come every time I need something, it just kind of, the stream of life brings it to me? And usually at the last moment when I need it the most. And I started to come to believe. And the only way a guy like me could, I can't believe because you say so. I'm just too much of a cynic. I'm too much of a skeptic. And then he wanted me to start doing 12-step calls. He wanted me to be one of the guys taking the meetings into the detox. I'm not even a week out of the detox myself, and he wants me to help people. He was obsessed with that. I want you to help people, help people, help people, help people. Oh, Jesus. It's like, what's this, some kind of multi-level Amway thing or something? Do you get a toaster if I bring enough people in? I mean, what? Or you want me to help people? And I had a lot of therapy. And so I said to him one day, he's pushing me to, let's sign up for the prison and bring the meetings into the detox, come with us, and go on the 12-step list. He's hammering me with that. So I said to him, listen, I understand what you're saying, but don't you think I should spend some time working on me? And it looked like he bit into a lemon. He went, work on you. He said, you've done quite enough of that. Stop it. And I thought, my God, I have done a lot of that. I mean, objectively, if I could have been fixed, I would have been fixed by now. And isn't it the more I pursued fixing me and my happiness and my satisfaction, the more elusive it became. And then I started doing 12-step calls, and I started doing sponsors. I started sponsoring people. I started giving. And some funny stuff happened. This elusive happiness and satisfaction with my life that I chased. Our book calls it a delusion that we're victims of, that we could wrest happiness and satisfaction out of this world if we only manage well. The more I chased it, the more elusive it became. And you guys said, stop it. I want you to help people. We want you to make amends. We want you to clean your act up. I want you to devote your life to helping others. And somewhere along the line, I realized that happiness and satisfaction had snuck up behind me and bit me on the ass while I was helping someone else. That I've had moments in my sobriety, many, many moments, where I feel the way I felt the first time I ever got really lit up when I was about 13. You know that feeling like you just want to feel like this forever? Where everything is right. Everything, you're right. Life's right. The people around you are right. Everything is exactly as it should be. I've had many, many moments like that in my sobriety. And it's never from self-grandizement. It's never from acquisition. It's never, I tell you, I've had times where I've spent 3 or 4 hours with some new guy who probably isn't going to stay sober, and I came away from that feeling better than I've ever felt, better than when I got some 7-figure check, better than when I bought the new AMG, better than when I got the new girlfriend and the sex is so good, pigeons are flying out my ears. Because though self-gratification and self-grandizement are illusionary and temporary, what is it about guys like me, no matter how good something is, the shine of it wears off quickly? But the shine of helping God's kids, there's such a rightness about it because I'm divinely crafted to do that. And when you think about it objectively, it makes perfect sense. It's the one action in my life where all my failures, all my losing, all the things that are wrong with me, all my defects come to bear because they become useful. In this alchemy of God's grace, where they take where God seems to, in the service of others, he takes the worst of you and makes it the best of you. It's an amazing thing. It became my primary purpose. You know, when everybody comes to AA, we already have a primary purpose. It's ourselves. You know, me. And somebody should meet every newcomer that comes into Alcoholics Anonymous who's worried about themselves, concerned with themselves, trying to do for themselves, trying to fix themselves, and just ask them one simple question. So, how's that been working for you? And if you got what I got, hasn't been working very well. And yet, when you forget yourself, do that thing it talks about in the prayer of St. Francis, that self-forgetting. When you push yourself aside to serve a purpose and a set of principles and a power greater than you, everything you sought and that eluded you seems to come to you. I've had those moments where I've been so overwhelmed, or I'd say things to myself, this is the way, right now, right this moment, I feel the way that I always imagined I'd feel if I had the right people loving me the right way, the right material support, the right house. I thought that I could get those things through acquisition, and I had it backwards. You get them from the giving, not from the taking. And that's why some of us love Alcoholics Anonymous. AA doesn't make sense. If you're new here, I'm telling you, you look at some of the things I'm saying, you look at those steps, it doesn't make sense. Nobody's come to AA, looked at the 12 steps, and thought on the day they burnt their life to the ground, they're a newcomer. Oh yeah, that would work. I can't wait. Oh, I get to write an inventory. I get to pay back the money. This is so exciting. Nobody says that. And yet, we all feel that way after we did it. AA doesn't make any sense until you take the action. Because Alcoholics Anonymous is it's not something you learn. It's not something you know. It's something you do. It's an action program. There's a movement that tries to say that AA is a selfish program. No, it's a program for selfish people. Or it's a faith-based program. No, it's not. It's an action-based program. Faith in and of itself for the alcoholic is not enough. I've sponsored clergy who drank themselves to death with more faith than most of us would ever have. But they wouldn't take the actions. They used their faith just like, you know the two hardest people to sponsor? Clergy and therapists. Because they're both the I know people. You know, they don't want, it's beneath them to do the little stuff like be a secretary or help with the chairs or clean the bathrooms, or it's beneath them. No, it's not. It's so far above you, you can't even understand it. Because there is a high coinage and a high payoff for actions of inconvenience. Nobody has ever grown. I've never grown spiritually doing the things I feel like doing or wanting to do. I have commitments. The truth is, there are times I don't want to do them. I go to my home group. I get there an hour and 15 minutes usually before the meeting starts, and I stand at I help with the chairs for a little bit, and then I stand at the door and I greet. I think greeting is one of the most amazing service positions in Alcoholics Anonymous, because it forces you to get out of your own head and remember what it was like when you came into AA and you didn't fit. It forces you to remember how awkward it is here when you're new. And then to care enough that you want to help that person feel like they belong. Here, let me show you where the coffee is. The bathrooms are right down there. Did you get a seat yet? You know, they're going to fill up. I want you to meet a couple of the guys I sponsor. Inclusiveness. And inclusiveness may be one of the higher forms of love. That we inconvenience ourselves for the welfare of others. Big medicine. Big medicine. For the selfish, self-centered, depressive, anxious person I came here with, it's changed my life. And so, I've been traveling a lot. Like sometimes, I'll tell you, I wish my sponsor was still alive. My second sponsor I had for about almost 29 years, over 28. It was a guy named Clancy. Controversial guy. There's a lot of people that didn't like him that never met him. He told me one time, he said, "Kid, when people talking crap about you behind your back, you know you've arrived here." He said, if you don't want anybody to talk negatively about you, don't do anything. Be the guy that sits in the corner of the club and does nothing. And he said, unfortunately, kid, you'll die of alcoholism living in AA like that. He says you got to be involved. And I remember a conversation I had with him. We used to spend a lot of time together, and one time I was tired of speaking. I said, I don't like it. I don't like the accolade. I don't like it. It scares me. I think it has the potential to feed something in me that should be starved. I don't want to be separate and apart from the herd here. And I don't think it matters whether people put you on a pedestal or you've crawled under a rock. You're still not part of the herd. And it scared me. Plus there's speakers that they talk a good game, but they won't do anything off the podium. It's all about the show. And I told Clancy, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, kid, you have to do it. We have to have people that are committed to Alcoholics Anonymous that carry the message. Otherwise, we just have all the showmen, and we don't want that. He said, you got to keep doing this. And I said, don't you ever get a feeling like AA's changing? And he said, yeah. He got sober in 1958 after 10 years of relapse. And he said to me, I'm very grateful that I was alive and sober in Alcoholics Anonymous during its high noon, when AA's light shined the brightest. He said, now I see its sun is sinking. And he said, I'm sure it won't sink completely while I'm alive. But it's sad to watch the narcissism infiltrate Alcoholics Anonymous. Because what kills the alcoholic is selfishness and self-centeredness. What diminishes Alcoholics Anonymous except selfishness and self-centeredness? What will destroy your family except selfishness and self-centeredness? What will destroy your workplace or your business except selfishness and self-centeredness? And I love Alcoholics Anonymous. How could I not? Look what it's done in my life and in the lives of all the people I sponsor that I've come to love. But I get scared for our future. Our numbers are on the decline against an increasing population. I go to meetings, I go fishing on fishing expeditions into some of the open discussion meetings. I've been to meetings where you can sit through the whole meeting, and I don't even know what meeting that was. It wasn't, my friend says, oh, it's an AB meeting. I said, what do you mean AB? He says, I don't know, but it's not AA. And you can feel the difference. If your spirit is awake in a recovery meeting that really is Alcoholics Anonymous, will light you up. A meeting that's all about personal problems and narcissistic in nature. If you ever been to meetings like that, and I've been to many of them looking for newcomers, you come out of that meeting with a feeling like, oh my God, I need a meeting. I mean, jeez. And what's the difference? One group, it's all about helping people. It's all about the principles. It's all about God. And the other group, it's all about me. It's all about me. And so I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I know there's a bunch of new people here, and I don't know if you identified with me. I don't know. But if you didn't, there'll be another speaker right down the road that you'll connect with. We have a wrench for every nut here. And I think the connection is important. You got to find your guy that makes you nod your head. You got to have a sponsor that you'll respect enough to follow his directions even when you don't feel like it, even when it's scary directions, even when the directions he's giving you don't feel right to you. A surrendered person does whatever they're asked to do. And that built my life on that for the last little over 44 years. Surrender. My grand sponsor was a guy named Chuck Chamberlain. I'll say this and I'll shut up. Chuck used to start meetings sometimes. He'd get to the podium, and he'd look out at the audience, and he'd say, I'm here to tell you monkeys 2 things. Surrender and stop thinking. Thanks for my life.